Alex Pereira is clearly the face of the UFC. Just 9 months ago, I made a video titled, Why the UFC Doesn't Have a Face Anymore, and in summary, I talked about how in the fallout of the UFC's golden boy Conor McGregor no longer being the face of the UFC, the star power spread out like Dragon Balls into different stars and different faces in each weight class. In that video, I only considered 5 possible guys that could be the potential face of the UFC going forward, and in my opinion, they had all equal chances at becoming the face, but all of them had something that held them back from being the next Conor. Jon Jones was the first name that came to mind at the time. He just came back to the UFC, moved up to heavyweight, and to his word, dispatched Ciryl Gane with ease. The only problem is his inactivity. I mean, how can you be the face of the sport if you barely play the sport? Next, Israel Adesanya I thought was going to be the more likely face of the UFC. At the time, Israel Adesanya had just come off his avenged win over his longtime rival and looked like he was going to start a new title run, though of course, Sean Strickland was there to end it all. But even if Sean Strickland wasn't there to ruin the party, I think there's just something with Izzy when he's on the mic in press conferences that's just off, that holds him back from being a true star. He always is trying to be the slick shit talker on stage, but comes off as scripted and cringe. Sean O'Malley is another guy I thought could be the face of the UFC. He had a unique look, and you have to give it to Sean. His striking and his performances have been nothing but exciting and fireworks. The only problem is his lack of personality. I can't really think of one quotable from Sean, maybe Welcome to the Sugar Show, but he doesn't leave an impression when he's on the mic that really hurts him in terms of star power. And finally, I had Volk up there when he was still champ, and I had Charles Oliveira after his comeback victory over Beneil. Both guys were and still are really liked and have a huge cult following. Both guys are very exciting and genuinely nice people, but with their recent decline in both their careers, I don't think they have the potential of being the face anymore. So with all of these guys having something that was holding them back from being the face of the UFC, I really thought that the star power was going to be evenly distributed amongst the champions, and we would never get somebody who could check all of the boxes like Conor once did. Until a guy I didn't even consider 9 months ago broke out and checked every box for becoming a superstar. And of course, I'm talking about Alex Pereira. I think there's 4 things that define a superstar, and a fighter must check off all of those boxes to truly consider themselves the face of the sport. The first one is excitement and performances. The second is activity. Third is a distinct personality, look, and genuinity. And fourth is a story. Firstly, above all things, a fighter must be exciting, win or lose. I saw a great comment somewhere online, and I really wish I could credit this guy because it really explains combat sports today so well. It goes, in boxing, you're allowed to be boring, but you're not allowed to lose. And in MMA, you're allowed to lose, but you're not allowed to be boring. The only thing that matters in the world of MMA, and in particular the UFC, is how exciting of a fighter you truly are. Losses really don't matter in the UFC. People will still want to see guys time and time and again if they're routinely putting out exciting fights, and this is what really makes guys stars. Excitement and overall great performances can make guys with losing records stars and keep people wanting to see them. Excitement can make guys who don't speak English become global sensations and can completely exonerate someone from their sins if they can choke out Ciryl Gane in their return. On the flip side, being unexciting and boring can make you the most hated guy on the roster, even if you're on a 9-fight win streak. Being boring can discredit your championship run, even if objectively you're probably top 3 pound for pound best. But you know what isn't boring? This exciting message from my friends at Factor. You know why I'm excited? Because it's summertime, and you know I'm outside this summer, and when I'm out and about, I want to eat stress-free, and that's why I'm choosing Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, and their menu includes so much, from calorie-smart, keto to protein plus, and juices too. And what I love is that using these categories on the menu, I can continue to hit my goals this summer and continue to look slim and handsome with Factor. Given how busy I am between editing and boxing, where I really benefit is saving time in the grocery store and the kitchen. It only takes 2 minutes to heat up, and their meal kits take out the guesswork of meal prepping, and I instead get chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals right at the door. Also, Factor is super flexible, so when things get crazy this summer, you can change your plans from 4 to 18 per week, or pause/reschedule your deliveries anytime. And let me tell you, even after reheating, legitimately these meals are still really tasty, really delicious, and really fresh as well. I also washed down this meal with some pineapple, turmeric, basil, and it was so good. These juices are amazing. So head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code TJLovesFights50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code TJLovesFights50 50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. For Alex Pereira, this is what first made his name so big. In the beginning of his career, he was really known for being the guy that knocked out Izzy in devastating fashion in kickboxing, and he continued that reign of terror and power into the UFC. In his 3 fights leading up to Izzy in the UFC, he brutally knocked out Andreas Michailidis with a flying knee in his debut, beat down Bruno Silva, and almost finished him with a left hook, actually got the brutal finish with the left hook against Sean Strickland, and finally KO'd Israel Adesanya to complete his Terminator destiny. And since then, sure, he got KO'd by Izzy, but that was still an exciting fight in a loss. He had a split decision against Jan, which was still a solid fight. He had a memorable performance against Yuri Prohaska to get the belt at 205, which included this legendary stare down. And then most recently, he ignored a kick to the dick, KO'd Jamal Hill, and gave us this iconic picture. And even though Alex Pereira has a small sample size, it seems like every one of his fights are electrifying and memorable in some type of way. Additionally, with Alex being a striker and most importantly a KO artist, casual and hardcore MMA fans will always tune in to watch him fight. And with his patented left hook that seems to erase anything and everything, he has a signature move associated to his game that just makes him even more of a star. And even though he has a small sample size, Alex Pereira is quickly growing that sample size of fights with his sheer and unrelenting activity. In 2022 and 2023, Alex Pereira fought an astounding 3 times in both those years. For reference, the last time Stipe fought, Alex wasn't even in the UFC. John Jones hasn't fought in over a year. Michael Chandler and Conor haven't fought in 2-ish years. Khamzat seems to be fighting once a year. And most champs and fighters in general fight once, maybe twice a year. So for Alex to be fighting not just 3 times, but also routinely fighting the top is unheard of. In his 8 fights in the UFC, the guy has fought 5 former champions, with Izzy being 2 of those fights, meaning 6 of his 8 fights were against champion caliber guys. Alex is fighting the absolute best in the division and doing it 3 times a year. I feel like no one is giving Alex the credit for this in particular, but the dude got knocked out cold with his fight against Izzy in April of last year, and just 3 months later moved up a new weight class and fought former champion Jan Blachowicz. He just fought at UFC 300 and stepped up on late notice to fight Yuri again this week for UFC 303. And I mean, look at the UFC card numbers on Alex's fights. It's like the guy fights every 3 to 5 cards, which is just absurd. He's a workhorse constantly fighting. If that doesn't make you a fan, I don't know what does. And now let's really get into what makes Alex Pereira a star. Whenever I hang out with my friends who are casuals, the one thing they say when I bring up Alex Pereira is he that guy that looks like a native and screams Shama? Alex Pereira, without even trying, has marketed himself with such a unique look, a distinct personality, and such a quotable catchphrase. Look at the comments of my community poll when I asked who is the face of the UFC. He's fully embraced the Easter Island head emoji without even trying, and it just fits his stoic, giant head that is so recognizable. Additionally, at the weigh-in, him representing his native roots has given him such a distinct look that you can tell is genuinely who he is. You add on his iconic bow and scream walk-in, and it just seems like every one of Dana White's dreams as a promoter come true. The most important part of Alex's aura is that it's genuine. He's not trying to be anyone he's not, and from what I could tell, he's not even purposely trying to market himself at all. He's just being himself. We've seen some guys in the past, when they're rising up the ranks and want to elevate themselves to that next level of stardom, try to play heel. Conor did it and made him millions in the face of a sport. But the key with Conor is that he truly and genuinely was and still is the heel and slick talking bad guy. When others try to replicate being a heel and shit talker on the mic, it seems forced, disingenuous, and fans and people in general have a good eye for someone trying to be something that they're not. But in the case of Alex, I don't think he's purposely trying to have a distinct look. All of the things he's known for is literally just him being him, and I think that's why fans enjoy him even outside of the ring as well. Finally, Alex Pereira's story is straight out of a movie. I've detailed the Alex Pereira story, namely his saga in the UFC and his rivalry with Israel Adesanya before, but for Alex to go from alcoholic, relatively unknown, to villain, to chase Izzy from this call out in the UFC, complete his destiny by beating Izzy, move up a division to chase greatness, and finally switch roles from villain to hero and main character is a movie script that seems to be too perfect that it sounds made up. Everyone loves an underdog story, and for Alex to come from where he came from to beating Izzy in kickboxing, then back to alcoholism, and then to come back from that and prove his greatness on the biggest stage is something anyone would cheer for. 9 months ago, I didn't think the UFC would have a clear face like Conor once was. I thought the talent had been spread sparse and the talent would be diversified amongst champions, but Alex has surpassed all those expectations and has been the clear-cut face of the UFC by simply being himself. And with his rematch against Jiří Procházka this Saturday, Alex has the potential to add to his greatness and continue to be the face of the UFC. So what do you guys think about Alex Pereira? Is he the face of the UFC? Will he continue to be the face of the UFC, considering he's, a little bit on the older side at 37? But again, I would like to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And also, thanks for watching and always supporting. Peace.